welcome to the next Draft League on this channel. We're back in the CDC, and this time it's Season 6, which is Gen 6. To start this draft analysis off, let's just go over the rules of the draft. Now, since we're playing in Gen 6, we went back to the tiers system, meaning you have S tiers, A tiers, B tiers, and so on. We had we had to draft 11 Pokemon on our team. 1 S tier, 1 A, 2 Bs, 3 Cs, and then 4 free agencies, where we could pick from any of the tiers, but we had a budget of 200 points to spend. And the fun thing with tiers is that it's very easy to abuse, because ultimately something is going to be under tiered. And the same thing goes for a point system, but with points, 13 points, 14 points, not that big of a difference. But with tiers, the difference between an A and a B, that's pretty massive. Which is why I decided to not grab my S tier in the first round of the draft, and instead focus on those lower tier mons that I believe should have been higher. Which is why I started my draft off with a duo of Hydreigon and Reuniclus. Now, both of those guys are very, very strong, and I don't believe that they should have been in the tiers that they were. Hydreigon was an A tier, which that's reasonable. I just really love Hydreigon, but Reuniclus was a B tier. And that doesn't sit right with me because he's a monster. So I'm very excited to have gotten Reuniclus on such a bargain deal. And just those two together really create a potent defensive core for me to start my draft with. Obviously, the Psychic typing with Reuniclus, the Dark with Hydreigon is a very popular offensive core. But they're also just great little guys on their own. Reuniclus even provides me some speed control if I really feel goofy one week. And after those two guys, because the thing with these draft analysis is, right, I can't really tell you how it's going to work because I haven't used it yet. So I'm just going to tell you how I feel about it. And those two I feel very good about. And my next feeling was that they're really weak to steel. Obviously, Reuniclus can click Focus Blast, and Hydreigon can as well, but that's not really something I want to rely on. So for my next pick, I wanted to use my free agency points to pick up an A tier that deals very well with steel types, that being Magnezone. Now, Magnezone in and of itself is a great steel type, which is always a boon on a draft. But with Magnapole, I'm able to trap those pesky steel types like Scizor, like Ferrothorn, and boom them with Hidden Power Fire, allowing for my Hydreigon, Reuniclus, and later on my S tier to really flourish in the matchup. But we're not going to grab that S tier yet, as the rest of the people by round 2 had picked up their S tier, and I didn't really believe anyone would spend so many of their free agency points to grab a second S tier and then be left with 3 F tiers. Therefore, I decided to stall my S tier until the very end. Well, not really, but just later on, I got a bit scared at the end. But that being said, I didn't even pick up my next B tier. I skipped straight down to C in order to grab Gastrodon, which is another mon I think is very good for its price. Because we need to remember that this is Gen 6, and the offensive stats of other Pokemonsters are not that high, meaning that Gastrodon's middling defenses actually are quite good in this generation, and it can tank quite a few hits and then punish things with Scald Burns, Toxics, and just general, I was going to say strong, but that's a lie, but somewhat powerful earth powers maybe, I don't know. But no, I like Gastrodon here as a defensive piece, and the Water Ground typing is obviously amazing, only being weak to grass, and if you look at my team, Hydreigon, Magnezone, I'm not really that weak to grass. So Gastrodon felt like a really good fit here. Keeping on the trend of a more defensive guy, we've got Hitmontop, which gives me Rapid Spin, and that's mainly why he's here, as I discovered hazard removal is dog shit in Gen 6. So Hitmontop then is a great little spinner that can do some damage, as well with the Intimidate ability, just making him a stopper to a physical sweep, potentially. There's not much to say about this guy, except he's going to be providing some nice support to the team. speaking of support, I think it's about time I grab my B tier in Nidoqueen. Now, Nidoqueen is very good. Sheer Force Life Orb obviously makes it do a lot of damage, even with that pretty puny 75 special attack stat. But where it really shines here for the team is providing Stealth Rock, which otherwise I don't have at this point. And then, like I said, Earth Power, Sludge Wave, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, all the coverage you could ever want. Very, very good. And to finish off sort of my little quartet of more defensive pieces, we've got Rotom Mow. Now Motom, he can be offensive and he can be defensive. 105 special attack is pretty damn strong in this gen. And 107 in both. Defenses, 50 HP, not great, the HP. Defenses are very good. Scarf him, Scarf Trick, Will-O-Wisp, Leaf Storm. You know what a Rotom does, but it's very nice to have on the team. Supporting Gastrodon with yet another grass resist. It just feels good. I just wanted a grass type, and Rotom will fit that quite well, giving me pivoting and a lot of other sort of disruption as well. So that sort of rounds out my more defensive side of the draft. And it's about time I pick up my S tier, yeah. I could have left it to the end at this point, as no one realistically would have picked it up. But someone next to me in the draft had a team that this mon would have fit very nicely on, and that mon is Mega Diancie, which, to be honest, I don't know how this was one of the S tiers that were left out. There were 19 Pokemon in S, 11 of them got drafted before I picked up mine, and I don't think Diancie is the 12th best mon in S. So getting this guy in round, I think it was round 6 I got him, that's a steal. Speaking of steel, Magnezone supports this guy very, very well, trapping those steel types that otherwise can really just rock Diancie's world. I mean, there's not much to say about Diancie, you know what it does, right? Big damage. But it just so happened to complement my team quite well, giving me a strong fairy type as well to round off Hydreigon Magnezone for that little core. And now we're on to the picks that probably won't come to most games, but still, they're on the team. First up is Zangoose. Zangoose got picked because he has a high attack stat, and I just wanted the potential of a physical breaker. Toxic Orb Facade is obviously very, very powerful, and he might come to a few games just to click big buttons. But in the terms of support for the rest of the team, he doesn't provide much. Next is Rufflet. Now, Rufflet is an interesting mon because it has Hustle, which means it can genuinely do quite a lot of damage. And when you're down in the F tier and you're just picking mons to fill out your team, just having a guy that can, in theory, blow up a Ferrothorn, that's not too bad. So I just picked Rufflet. But we all know what the best thing to grab with those little shit mons are, and that's a Sticky Web user, which is why I have Sawaddle. Now, Sawaddle clicks Sticky Web, and that's it. And with that, the draft is complete, and I've ended up with this draft. I'm quite pleased with it as of right now. How I'm going to feel about it in a few weeks, who knows? And that is to be determined later in the season. So this was really just a showcase of my draft, my thought process going through it, and then I'll see you next week when we play our week 1.